My dad went to 2 Olympic Games. I went to 2 Olympic Games. My coach went to 2 Olympic Games. My godfather went to 2 Olympic Games, and it was just like, you had to add on. So he did artistic gymnastics, which includes like the pommel horse, the rings, the vault, the bars. Very upper body dominant sport, and I kind of chose quite literally the other route. So I do competitive trampoline. If you don't know what that is, it's not a backyard trampoline. It's a rectangular white bed trampoline that's about 4 feet off the ground. You're jumping 25 feet in the air. You're doing multiple flips and spins. Any kind of wrong move and you can be off the trampoline, your routine's over. It was around 2018, 2019. I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to be more mindful. World Championships happens in November. That's where I got really dialed in with like the Calm app, meditating in the morning. So I barely made the world's team that year. I go to World Championships, and this is when I'm like really heavy on the meditation. Bro, that was the deepest level of flow state I've ever been in my life. Ever. Like that routine.
Wow, do you want to tell us about the routine? Welcome to the Ascend Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Drake, and I have an incredible guest today, Alexi Shostak, aka Lexios. This man, myth, and legend himself is actually an Olympian. So today we're going to go on quite a journey, going into your origins, who you are as a person, what's really influenced you in your life, and who knows what we'll uncover. It's always an incredible journey. Thank you so much for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's an honor. It really is to be here. Tyler's an incredible soul. Great friend. You taught me a lot, brother.
Thank you, bro. Likewise. So, for a little context, we got to meet at the beginning of the year after I moved here to Lafayette, and we were getting ready to go to Peru. Soul mission activation experience that was Peru. And so Alexi and I have gotten an opportunity to really see each other in those moments of challenge and struggle, climbing up to 14,000 feet elevation, right? When it goes from being warm outside to just coming down like a thunderstorm.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Got the whole experience. Lifetime in a day.
So they say. And so one of the ways that I'd like for us to begin here is you come from Belarus, correct?
Yeah, so my family origins are from Belarus, which is a former Soviet Union country. It's right above the Ukraine, right next to Russia. I call it Russia's little brother. So it was a big culture shock when I moved here in 2001. There's this country, it's still about 9 million people. And we moved to the United States. Moved to the United States. And in 2001, I believe the census was, I looked this up the other day just out of curiosity, it was 280 million. So big jump. So yeah, it was, I didn't realize like how it like affected me, as a kid, because, I pretty much uprooted, and started a whole new life.
I can only imagine. You said you were 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Such a pivotal age in development, like really becoming who we are as a person, and not very familiar with who I am as an individual.
Right.
Yeah. So why is it that you moved to America?
So my father was actually an Olympic gymnast himself. He had just finished his second Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you got to go to the Olympic Games, I imagine?
No, I didn't.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with the country and sending off family members, but I think even my mom stayed behind. Yeah.
Wow. Is that common now? Like, do families, I hadn't thought about this before.
No, my family, they came to me to Paris last year, so, but they couldn't come to Tokyo. We'll get into that later. But yeah, no, I mean, they came and supported my Olympic competition in Paris. So
Wow, this is just so interesting to feel into what it would be like to compete on that kind of stage. And before we get there, let's get a little bit more juice. What was it like growing up? Your father's also an Olympian?
yeah, so he did artistic gymnastics, which includes like the pommel horse, the rings, the vault, the bars. Very upper body dominant sport, and I kind of chose quite literally the other route. So I do competitive trampoline, which for the viewers, if you don't know what that is, it's not a backyard trampoline. It's a rectangular white bed trampoline that's about 4 feet off the ground, and you do a sequence of 10 skills in a routine. And in those 10 skills, you get judged off of your difficulty, how hard the tricks are, your height, the execution, which is how well you perform the routine, and then you have a displacement score, which is how far you deviate from the center of the trampoline. So that's a little bit of insight on the world of trampoline.
Yeah.
So that's what I decided to pursue instead of the traditional gymnastics. I think as a kid, it was hard for me to sit still, and I really enjoyed jumping like most kids do, and I just fell in love with it.
How did it help you as a child, growing up and actually having such a physically awesome sport, and especially with trampoline? I had a trampoline growing up as well. I told you about this.
Oh, yeah,
circular, like 14-footer in the backyard, and it was a blast. We'd put the sprinkler underneath it, and it would give so much extra bounce, so much that we could bottom out.
Yeah, I've never tried that.
Oh yeah, it's worth it with that tight weaving.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets really heavy, so it adds a whole lot more loading to the springs.
Interesting.
And it's fun too because the water drops come up. So I do those drops onto the back, and then the water rises, a foot or 2 feet with the person as they're dropping down. It's really cool. Yeah, give it a try if you've got a trampoline at home or if you know somebody that does. But it was always such a fun thing, and for me being a higher energy person, it felt really good to have an outlet like that, be able to pour all that energy into. And so what was that like for you as you started to actually have this outlet? Your father's already an Olympic gymnast. That's just wild to me.
Yeah, it was incredible because, I mean, like you, I relate. I was just a very high energy kid. And so my parents both worked at the gym. And so instead of, we didn't have anybody like, my grandparents would come visit, but they didn't stay with us full time. We didn't have any relatives here, so they bring me to the gym with them. And so that's kind of what I did. I just spent my time at the gym, and I got all my energy out and went home, and I was very active for 5-6 days a week, which I highly recommend for all kids growing up to do the same, for various reasons. But yeah.
What are some of the reasons why you feel for kids in particular, that it's important to really expend that energy and to have, a place to release that energy?
Well, I mean, for one, being active is, it's part of our physiology, part of our biology. And especially as a kid, if you are high energy, then you have to do something with it. Otherwise, it turns into chaos. Like you'll have kids drawing on the walls, like, because they're just so bored. And you're like, well, why are you doing that? It's like, well, maybe they need to go outside and experience nature and, be with their body.
Absolutely. It's so important. Ground in, take shoes off, actually put our feet on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy. Yeah, I love the grounding practice. It's something I do every morning, get out there and just look at the sun, feel into my body. Yeah, and I mean, it's really easy to do the opposite and just sit inside and like get kind of sucked into a phone screen or a computer screen or a TV screen, and next thing you know, like hours go by, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So, and it's much easier to manipulate children because, you know, they don't have that level of discernment in their brains, and their brains aren't developed, so they can't tell what's good for them, what's not good for them. So I do, you know, I applaud the parents who limit screen time and really just allow their child to develop, you know, naturally more of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into a little bit more of your development story. So you came here from Belarus, 6 years old. Your father's an Olympian. You're going through, he's doing the pommel horse, and you're choosing to do trampoline. Like how did that all progress for you? I mean, to go from a child jumping on a trampoline to competing at the highest level in the entire world.
Yeah, so growing up, I was really just doing it recreationally. Like, I was just having a good time. And people would ask me, like, oh, are you going to go to the Olympics like your dad? And I was kind of a rebel, still am. And I would just be like, nah. I'm going to do my own thing, you know? And ironically enough, like, I mean, I was doing my own thing. I just had to come up with the ideas. What I love about my parents and how they raised me and coached me was they never forced it. So I tried, like, you know, soccer, baseball, even wrestled, and always found my way back onto the trampoline. And so it was when I was 15 years old, I decided, like, okay, let's take it up a notch. And my current coach, Dmitri, who lives here in Lafayette, Louisiana, he was actually on the same Olympic team as my dad in 2000. So Dmitri was doing trampoline, and my dad was, you know, on the still rings.
Wow, were they friends at the time?
Yeah. So I've known Dmitri since I was 3-4 years old.
No way.
Yeah. So he's a very prominent father figure in my life. He actually was the one who proposed for me to move to Lafayette to continue. We kind of came to Lafayette one time for a training camp, and I didn't even know that he was going to ask me this. And we're sitting outside of like a Mexican restaurant. He's like, you know, he's got a cigarette in hand. He's like, so, what say you? How would you like to go to the Olympic Games? And I was just, you know, I'm a 15-year-old kid. I'm like looking at him like, sure. Like, sounds cool. Let's give it a whirl. And so, yeah, that summer we did a little test run to see, you know, if I was, you know, built for it, because the training was a lot more intense. It still is, you know, we have a high caliber training facility here in Lafayette. We produced 5 Olympians out of our gym. No, 6. 5 or 6, one or the other. But I mean, it's a handful, more than a handful.
One every 5 years, right?
We had representation at the Olympic Games since trampoline's inception in the Olympic Games.
No way. And when was that?
2000.
That was in 2000? Oh,
so
my goodness.
Since 2000, we've had a representative from Trampoline and Tumbling Express.
Amazing.
Yeah, we have quite a legacy.
Good job, Dmitri and crew. That's incredible.
So, yeah, and I came over here during the summer of 2011 and tested it out to see if I actually wanted to commit, because, you know, starting in September, I would have to move here, change schools, which he became my legal guardian because I was 16 or 15, 16, whatever age I was. And so I had to switch schools. And again, same kind of like big shift. I uprooted, came from a school that had 900 kids in the whole school to 900 kids in my class.
Wow.
So there's like 2,800 kids, I think it was, at Lafayette High. Yeah, and so
You've had a couple of those big jumps in population, 9 million in Belarus to 280 million.
yeah, I'm curious what the next one is. I don't feel like I'm moving anywhere anytime soon. I feel pretty rooted here. But yeah.
That's what's up, man. Okay, so, I mean, at this point in the journey, you're 15, 16 years old, just moved here to Lafayette, decided to try out with Dmitri to see if this is something that you actually could pursue an Olympic career in. And his feedback was,
I mean, he saw a lot of potential and talent in me at like a younger age. So he actually wanted me to move when I was like 12. But it was Mama Bear who was like, nah, not we're not gonna let him go quite yet. And I mean, I think for right reasons. I think I needed to mature a little bit, and I also wasn't like. I think if I would have started that early, I might have been burnt out of it too early. I didn't make the choice. I wouldn't have made. You know what I'm saying? Like I made this choice. I actively said, okay, yeah, it was kind of blasé, and I was like, yeah, let's move and go to the Olympics. But at least I know for a fact that it was my decision.
yeah, I imagine there's a lot of people that's not the case. If I was an Olympian, I would say, hey, Tula, I'd love for you to, become an Olympian as well.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic there where we all have our own like ego and the way that, our legacy would be. And so I could imagine with being an Olympian and competing on the highest stage and what that ripple effect would be, that a lot of parents would probably have a vested interest in their kids also following suit. Probably the same thing with basketball or any other kind of professional sport. It seems to be like there's either a big buy-in and the person has this huge advantage of being around, parents that are actually equipped at the highest level to play in their particular sport, or it's the opposite. Want nothing to do with it because parents were obsessed or they weren't around,
Yep.
So that's cool, 15, 16 years old, to really be a conscious, like growing adult, almost adult at that point, and make that decision for yourself.
Yeah, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. To leave my comfort and then pursue my goals. I think that's part of, we'll call it the hero's journey. Anyone that's trying to like achieve or has like these big goals and dreams, that sometimes you have to get really uncomfortable. Like, it ain't gonna come easy.
Right. And the more hard things that I do with an optimistic or grateful heart, the easier life gets.
I love that.
Yeah. So do hard things and smile and laugh.
Hard.
Stay hard.
Are we carrying boats after this, Tyler?
Carrying boats?
Yeah, David Goggins. He's like, who's gonna carry the boats?
Who's gonna carry the boats?
I think in a little 50-mile run.
Yeah, a piece of cake.
Word.
Yeah.
Maybe on the one wheel.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. It's a side story. We won't get into that right here. But David Goggins has been prevalent today. Well, actually, speak to that, man. David Goggins is a legend as far as transforming who he was, a much larger individual. I think he weighed 300 and something pounds.
Yeah.
And completely turned his life around, and now has become one of the most fit, super athletes out there, doing ultra marathons, 100+ mile runs, and just like learning to own his body, to own his consciousness in a way that's pretty rare.
Yeah, no, I admire him for that incredibly. Like, for sure, like I look up to him in that regard, to be able to hyper focus and really like make the changes that you want to see in yourself. With that being said, I feel like there's a balance, because we talk about like guys like Jordan too. I have a buddy of mine who actually he does halftime shows, and he said on an old camcorder, it was right before he was doing a Bulls halftime show in the '90s. He like got into the stadium, and Michael Jordan was the only one in this like on the basketball court practicing by himself.
Right.
Because he had that level of dedication, that level of drive, which again, some people can handle. It also gets kind of lonely and isolating. So like you got to find like the balance, because what happens when the music stops? What happens when the curtain drops? Like, who are you? Who's surrounding you? And that's something I've been exploring myself. Like, when my career is over, is my soul going to be happy?
Now we're cooking.
Yeah, because the ego is going to be, it's going to be a little, confused and scared. And this is part of why I've been, seeking out the soul mission, was to, part of it is to ease into the next phase of life, but also just to be okay, like where I'm at right now. Like Terrence McKenna, The Eternal Now. Is that Terrence McKenna?
I think it's everyone.
Yeah,
all
like,
time.
It's like there's only now. It's only the present. That's all we have.
There is. So
It's a gift.
it is. How have you balanced that level of dedication and focus and commitment to training, that rigidity, right? That like masculine energy, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to will this into existence, with that more feminine energy of receptivity and emotion and flow? How has that balance looked as you've journeyed through life from, a younger age, as you pursued these things, to how you currently perceive and operate?
Yeah, no, that's an incredible question. I love the way you worded that too. So, as a young adult, teenager to young adult, when I was training and competing, I was going to the gym, I was working out. We'd have 2-a-days. I'd even do like personal training in between the 2-a-days. So, I'd be working out 5-6 hours a day. And I was training like really well, but competing was a whole nother ball game. You have the pressure, you have the external pressure, you have the internal pressure. And so I just wasn't very consistent, It's still something that, trampoline, you have a lot of variables that can put you off the trampoline. You're jumping 25 feet in the air, you're doing multiple flips and spins, any kind of like wrong move, and you can be off the trampoline, your routine's over. Like, that's it. And so what I did, I started doing, it was around 2018, 2019. I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to be more mindful, how to slow things down, because like I would get up on the trampoline when I compete, and I'd have like these like outer body experiences. I'm like, I don't know if I know what I'm doing. Do I know how to jump on a trampoline anymore? Because the anxiety was so high. Like, it was just like, I don't know, I'm competing now, and I don't know. Like, and it just did not, and I would get so frustrated because it wouldn't translate to what I was doing in practice. And I was like, why? And so it was in, like I said, 2018, 2019 when I started making the shift, and, finding things like yoga practices, finding meditation, before, well, we can talk about this too, because it's a really cool story. It was 2019 World Championships. Well, actually, even prior to that, World Championships happens in November. That's where I got really dialed in with like the Calm app, meditating in the morning, Wim Hof breathing, learning how to regulate my breath and nervous system. And now, like, I'm not saying I was first at the scene, but now it's becoming more popular. Before it was kind of like woo-woo, taboo. You know, like even meditation, people are like, well, why do you need to sit still? Are you a monk or something? Like, like you're gonna start like levitating.
As
off
if
the
a
floor?
monk is a derogatory term.
Yeah.
Like, what a compliment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would love to be a monk.
Right.
Like, put me in the Himalayas. Yeah, now like people are starting to realize that like burnout is a thing, and
For sure.
overdoing it is also a thing, because you do like you will lose efficiency if you don't give yourself time to rest and reset.
Yeah.
And it's gonna seep out of you one way or another. Some people can like toughen up, but when you have the self-awareness that you've been there, you start to realize when other people are there too.
You hit on a key word right there, efficiency. Wow. That is amazing. Efficiency and effectiveness. And to actually slow down, paradoxically, can give so much more efficiency to every single aspect of life.
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, I still struggle with it. Do you struggle with it?
Of course.
Yeah, we're generators, baby.
That's right.
Gotta go, go, go.
Manifesting generator.
Yeah, MGs, baby.
It's true, being wired with that nature, just like in it. And even just today, as I was working on a couple different projects, I just noticed, how much focus am I pouring in versus how much am I slowing down and taking the right actions that are going to move the needle forward in totality.
I need to take some notes from you.
Of course, we're always learning from each other.
Yeah, bro. So yeah, as far as efficiency goes, sometimes I learned this from the 2 jiu-jitsu class. No, I've done a couple of jiu-jitsu classes, and it was a saying that the coach said. He said that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So yeah, it's just about the intention, fluidity.
It's so interesting. We actually got to be in the gym the other day, and so I got to try out these Olympic caliber.
Wait for these clips.
Oh yeah, check out the clips. Yeah, it was wild to be on these trampolines. I mean, they can tear you up. It's a different kind of experience, and to see videos, I've seen videos of you jumping on the trampoline doing like triple flips and all these spins, and you're jumping very high, but the perspective is not really felt until being there and actually seeing like, okay, I'm standing right here and you're like 4 human beings above me off the ground.
Yeah.
And the level of precision to be able to throw these flips that are just perfectly landing down and then bouncing back and throw scissor kicks and whatever it is that you feel like, adding to the quiver. I can imagine just how many reps that you put in and the level of trust within yourself that it takes to be able to, because, if you hit the springs, for example, being 25 feet up in the air, that can be more than just painful. Like that could be catastrophic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's for the audience, it is actually a very safe sport, as long as you have the proper training, equipment, environment, guidance. It sounds like a lot of variables, a lot of things for the recipe. However, a lot of the injuries we have, I mean, I thankfully have only injured myself like less than a handful of times.
Awesome.
As far as like, it's low impact is what I'm getting at. So like the longevity of a career, you can stretch it out. I'm 30 and I'm like still training, still pushing it, still competing at a high caliber.
Yeah, you're going to go back to the Olympic Games, aren't you?
Yeah, dude. LA 2028.
LA 2028.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I'm grateful for the journey at the moment. I don't have that like level of excitement up until I get to the event, if that makes sense. Because people ask me this question all the time, like, are you excited? Are you excited? I'm like, when I get there. And I feel like for me, I think that's me just being present. You know? Because I really fully enjoyed myself, like this past competition I had in Rhode Island in June. I was excited to compete. I was excited to be out on the stage again. And a buddy of mine asked me the same question. He goes, are you excited, bro? And I'm like, meh.
You know, I'm finding something interesting here. Part of me wants you to be excited, so I have permission to be excited for you. And knowing you now, you have such a stoic nature, and the way that you approach, I can feel the way that the meditation has all deepened within who you are, so that there isn't that anxiety that shows up to the degree it used to. It's much more contained to what's actually present now. And so this is a shift from outcome to the process.
Yeah. It's about the journey for sure. And I like the way you put that too, because sometimes people will put on a mask, you know, just to be agreeable, like just to like be like, just to match them. You're like, yeah, of course, like, you know, and now you're like,
Yeah, I'm stoked.
and I always, you know, intend to be authentically myself. So, and even if that creates discomfort in a situation, you know, as long as I'm speaking from the heart and I'm present with how I feel, then I think that's a better way to live.
1,000%. That's even more than 100%.
I think you're right.
100% squared. You know, I was actually listening to a Zach Bush clip today where he was discussing that the frequency of love is, you know, it's so high. And I historically thought that it was the highest frequency. And yet there's a frequency of authenticity. That's when the gamma, the heart and the brain are incoherent and the gamma waves are actually showing up. We're emanating what our soul signature frequency is.
Wow.
And that is the highest kind of energy that we can exhibit and experience, at least as far as I understand right now. So you in that moment, like being loving is connective and supportive, right? But being authentic. So I'm not excited for the upcoming Olympics. I'm stoked for the journey. I love that this is a place that I get to, a dojo that I get to play in, and I get to see all of these aspects of other people that are pushing the limits of what is even possible for humans. Like, that's incredible. And it's in the future. So am I excited about it? I'm inspired. I'm moving towards it. It's influencing my actions now, but I'm actually present. And I'm here right now with you.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's really interesting. I like that that little tidbit about the authenticity, because a lot of times people, you know, misconstrue love a little bit, you know, because you think love has to be gentle and nourishing, when, you know, in reality sometimes it's not. Sometimes it has to be destructive. It has to break things apart and have the hard truths, the hard conversations with people. And yeah, I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, thanks Zach Bush for doing all the actual science and the data here
Thank you,
to give
Zach.
us these little insights and these nuggets. And everyone else, thank you, listener, for actually pouring in and paying attention, being curious and interested in anything and everything that you're actually interested in. There's a reason for it, right? That's why I didn't do well in school, traditional school environment, because I'm like, this isn't interesting to me.
Right.
This isn't directly applicable to how I'm going to operate in life. Where's emotional understanding? How come that's not being taught in large scale academics? How do I handle rejection? Or how do I strengthen who I am artistically, which is the heart, right? How do we exercise the muscle of the heart and actually be the unique individual, the soul signature frequency that is uniquely Alexi, right? That is uniquely Ty.
Yeah. I like what you said about the heart in the book, The Untethered Soul. Incredible book.
Incredible.
It talks about energy being constant and free flowing, and that like people will complain that they need more energy. I do this myself. However, it's one of the main things, one of the main points they make is to keep your heart open. Because they use the example of, you work 12 hours, you come home, you have a loving family, beautiful wife and children, and you have a dog that comes and greets you at the door. Those people, they're lit up. It's like all that just dissipates. That's what I hope the kind of environment somebody like that will come to. And so then it's like, okay, but you just did all these things and you're like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so drained, but now you're relit because you went from this to this, to embracing the love that is, literally right in front of you. So
The heart open is presence. By definition, presence is the present. That is our gift of being alive.
yeah,
Every breath. And so the more that I can slow down and be present, the more I can experience everything through my senses. And then if I use the lens of gratitude, if I'm actually grateful, then I'm operating at the highest frequency. That's the highest form of receivership, right? If I'm grateful for who it is that you are and how you show up in the world, and that we're sitting here on this couch having this awesome conversation, sharing this with you. Thank you for listening, paying
you guys
attention.
are awesome.
Yeah, that is the most expensive currency out there, is paying attention. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me be of service for you as best as possible. Reach out, put anything in the comments, that I can do to be of more support, because you're actually what we're doing this for. And selfishly, I do it because I want to get to know my friends on a deeper level and share these amazing conversations and revelations and epiphanies that we keep getting to have in private dynamics or on the side of a mountain, right? And so here we are now, get to share it with these incredible souls.
Yeah, Jamie, pull up that picture of us on the mountain.
Yeah, Jamie. Pull it.
But seriously, we got to show them.
We might put a little bit, a little bit of a B-roll up in here. It was so epic, dude. Peru was so epic. Wow. Okay, so from here, this is really interesting. We kind of skipped over your beginning phases of your Olympic career, and it was really interesting. I'd love to actually double click on that a little bit. Do you want to talk about what, the Tokyo Olympics were like for you, or the first time that you got the call and they're like, hey, we're actually considering you? Like, do you want to talk to us about that process?
Yeah, I love this story. I really do. And few people know it. And haven't really shared it on a medium before. So, hope you enjoy.
Click. Buckled up, bro. Let's go.
So, again, I do feel as if I'm humbly blessed, maybe even divinely favored. I think it's part of the manifesting generator nature now that I connect the dots. So in 2019 and even into 2018, we had a series of 6 World Cups. So starting in 2018 to 2019, we had a series of 6 World Cups to qualify us to the Olympic Games. We, as the United States, did not qualify through the World Cup process. So they have another way to qualify, and that's our World Championships. If you place top 8 in the World Championships, your country automatically gets a spot. So I barely made the world's team that year. Like, we're talking about like tenths of a point difference. I beat out somebody for a spot. I go to World Championships, and this is when I'm like really heavy on the meditation. I even cut out coffee because I knew the amount of adrenaline that I would experience when I compete. I was drinking mud water at the time. Again, I still love coffee. It's a very comforting, treat for me. However, the mud water became a much better tool. Anyways, so for the 2 weeks that I'm in Japan, the first week was outside of Tokyo. I forget the city's name. But like we had news, like it was like a smaller town, and we were training there as guests, and we had news reporters come in. They took a picture of us. They put it in their paper. The town was known for melons, so they brought like crates of melons to us, and we're like, oh, sweet. Like they were just blessing us up for the competition in Tokyo. We arrived to Tokyo, go to Tokyo Disney, do the whole bit, like just walk around, experience, see Tokyo. It's an incredible city, one of my favorite cities in the world. And so, of course, the competition is the most important thing. That's what we're there for. My parents come to this one. This was their second time coming to a World Championships. So they brought along my sister, and they're having a blast. And I start my competition, and I started my competition strong. I hit both of my routines in the qualifying round. I hit my synchro routine with my partner, and we make it into the final round. And so after the qualifying round in individual trampoline, you go to semifinals. So I'm the only one on Team USA to make it in the semifinals. And so I'm supposed to compete a harder routine, a routine that I actually haven't competed. I don't think I've competed it internationally yet, if I remember correctly. And I was kind of training it for 2 weeks. Like I didn't do a whole routine the entire 2 weeks I was in Tokyo or Japan. And
was that to save yourself so that you like didn't have a potential injury or something?
No, it was really just to kind of like play it safe, like, just get into the rankings. Like, however, we knew that if I wanted to make finals, like I had to, amp it up. And so I go out on the competition floor, and I'm, hitting all my routines, and I remember feeling anxious, but this deep level of like just self-assurance and confidence that like everything was going to be okay. So I get up there and do the routine, and bro, that was the deepest level of like flow state I've ever been in my life.
Ever?
Like that routine.
Wow. Do you want to tell us about the routine?
Yeah, so it was I think we can show the clip. It'll do better justice to it. But it was same thing like I talked about. It was a 10 skill routine. 4 out of those 10 skills are triples, and the rest are double flips, but the double flips are still, 25 feet high, adding multiple twists as well. So it's not just, oh yeah, you would do doubles. Like it's still difficult. And so I finish the routine, I get off the trampoline, I'm kind of like looking around, I'm like, what just happened? Like confused. And I hear stories about this where like, it was a story of like a piano player in particular, and they were like, well, how did you do that? And he's like, I don't know. Like they just got into this deep flow state, and like they just can't explain what happened because it was just so in the moment. And so I hop off, I go sit in the corral, and I'm like awaiting my score. And I look up, and it was my personal best. Like I've never had a score that high before. And I was like,
bro,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're watching the rankings, and like I'm being bumped down a little bit, but I'm still like sixth place. It's like, wow, like I'm in sixth place after the first semifinals round. Like I can make it into finals. So there's another group that goes after me. So we have to watch and wait. I go in the stands, and I'm watching, and sure enough, I'm starting to move down, go from sixth to seventh. I'm like, okay, it's fine, it's all good, like we're still in. Watching the competition go by, go to seventh, eighth. I'm like, oof, it's all good. Like we still got hope. And then, sure enough, somebody goes, and I get bumped down from eighth to ninth. And I'm like, and at this point, like, and honest, I might have even been 10th, but there was already 2 Belarusians, which is my home country, ahead of me. So the number 9 wasn't even in because you can only have 2 for finals. So yes, I was the first reserve for the final round.
Okay.
So I was so I was 9th, and I was just devastated.
Because you had to be 8 to qualify.
Right, I had to be 8th to qualify the country spot. And I go up to the stands, and my parents are up there, and I'm just crying, I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like so close. Like I was like literally like this close. And I still have more competition ahead of me, and I'm like, well, gotta pick yourself up by the bootstraps and keep going. And so I ended up finishing strong. I hit every single routine that competition. It was either 8 for 8 routines, 9 for 9 routines, which in a trampoline competition, that's pretty big. Like that's, really consistent. So competition ends. We actually ended up getting a team medal and the team all around with the United States. We got a silver medal, so that was cool. But, that closed a chapter on the Tokyo World Championships. So
what year was this?
This was 2019.
Okay.
So then 2020 hits, and that's the year of COVID.
Oh, what was that?
Again, that was like the opposite of flow state. Like that feels like a fever dream at this point. Like I'm just like, what happened? What were we doing?
Right.
And so everything is shut down. All of our competitions get pushed back, delayed. They even were talking about like no Olympics. We're like, well, okay. So, but we're still training during COVID. We weren't breaking any rules. We only had 10 people inside the gym, which was.
Is this still in Japan?
No. We're back in Lafayette.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything gets pushed back. So here comes 2021, and everything's unfrozen. Like everything's back on. We have the Olympic trials, which I did really well at. And then the Summer Olympics is scheduled to be in July. So, however, we still do not have a spot. Like the U.S. men still does not have a spot. in which I'll get to that. So I find out that there is a rule in the code of points that says so the host country automatically gets a spot. It's part of the rules.
Makes sense.
If the host country has maxed out their quota, like 2 men, 2 women, then that host country spot goes to the person with the highest performance at the previous World Championships that already doesn't have a spot.
Nice plays, boy.
So I was like, whoa, this could happen. However, the United States still had one more opportunity to secure an Olympic spot, and it was at the Pan American Championships, and I believe it was in Brazil. Yes, it was in Brazil. Or was it Peru? I don't remember where it was. And so my former synchro partner had the opportunity to, he was, I mean, we were all, I didn't go to the competition because I was playing the chess game. I was like,
You got 9th. You were there on the
I'm
next
not going
one.
to self-sabotage my potential. I'm going to opt out of this competition. And maybe some people weren't happy with that. However, I was, doing what was best for me.
That's that authenticity frequency coming through.
And so my former synchro partner, he, incredible athlete, incredible trampolinist, and he had the opportunity to, still secure a spot at the Pan American Championships. However, he had to win, which he had the capability of doing. We had some other guys on the team. However, he was, favored to win the competition. And I was so stressed out about all this because, I'm still after the Olympic trials, I was still in first, by the ranking. So, but however, that's still not, we had to go through one more Olympic trial, and that could change the fate of everything. That's if the country had a spot. So they go to South America, and I'm so stressed out that I'm guys, I was talking to my girlfriend, my partner at the time, and some roommates and friends. I was like, let's go float on the river. I'm literally going with the flow today. I was like, I can't do anything that is, going to require anything that's, I'm going to go float on the river. That's it. And go do that, leave my phone in the car. They have the competition that day. I go back into the car, and I'm like, well, let's check the results.
Time to look.
And sure enough, there was another, he's a good friend of mine. He's from Colombia. His name is Angel, and he had beaten my former partner. His name's Jeffrey Gluckstein in the competition. It was Colombia first, United States second. So he got the spot for Colombia. And so the United States did not get a country spot, which meant that the quota spot was going to be given to me. And so I saw my phone, and I was just like, I'm going to the Olympics, and I'm bawling, crying, and I'm just in disbelief. It wasn't official yet, but we knew that was what's happening.
Yeah, and it's kind of bittersweet because your boy just didn't make it, but
Right.
then that actually gave you the spot.
Yeah.
Such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I think that was tough. For the USA men's trampoline in that regard. However, it was an insane amount of just daisy chain of events. just had to happen. And I'm just like, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I could do. Like, so that is, yeah, that's how I qualified to the Tokyo Games.
That's how you qualified. Now tell us about the Tokyo Games.
Yeah. So that was, well, that part is, in my opinion, less interesting, less fun, because it was the COVID Games. You had to, when you woke up every morning, before you could even drink water, you had to take a little tube and spit in it, and that was your COVID test. If you tested positive, you had to retest. And if that test was positive, you were out of the Olympic Games.
Period.
Yeah, like you can't just be like, I'm fine, like I'll suck it up. Because some people will have COVID but no symptoms, but they didn't care. We had an instance with some of the alternates on the women's gymnastics team who tested positive, and they like quarantined them in the hotel room. There's another story of a track and field. He's either a runner or a pole vaulter, but Mondo Duplantis, he's the Swedish pole vaulter. He holds the current world records. Incredible athlete. He was supposed to go meet said guy at the Olympics just for coffee, and he was like on the phone with his girlfriend and lost track of time. Didn't go meet this guy. This guy ends up testing positive for COVID and is out of the Olympic Games. Mondo went to become Olympic champion.
What?
So.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah, the amount of like stress I was dealing with while I was there was unreal. And on top of that, it's my first Olympic Games.
Wow.
So I at no point did I feel safe. Was I happy? I just wanted to. I was praying that I could get to the competition floor and compete that day, so I can be an Olympian. Because in my head, I was like, if I don't compete, then I'm not an Olympian.
What a wild time that we've lived through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same thing in 2022. They had the Winter Games, and like I was watching, like it was almost like a horror film. Like this, it was like a USA, maybe it was a figure skater, and he's like posting this Instagram video of him quarantined in a hotel room, and it's like dark and depressing, and he's like, I don't know how to say this, but I tested positive for COVID-19, and I'm not gonna be able to compete. I'm like, can you imagine a lifetime of work?
Oh my goodness.
All because of said virus.
Right. Now, regardless of listener, regardless of your perspective on the morality of those decisions, just feel into your heart for a moment and imagine if you invested your entire life focus and the maximum amount of energy and made the most sacrifices possible to be able to have the opportunity to be amongst the very best at the craft that you've chosen. And then because of somebody's decision somewhere, sometime, you had some saliva that all of a sudden just disqualified you, that you couldn't actually influence. I mean, I remember how crazy it was. I mean, no one knew if they had it or not at the time, and let alone the health repercussions. Like the actual health repercussions were so low. Now we're starting to get into my perspective on it. But just feel in your heart for a moment, like what that would actually be like. I just have so much compassion for that person as an example, and every other person in every other aspect of life. Nurses that couldn't go to work. They couldn't actually serve and support people because they might have had a differing opinion.
Yeah. I do hope and pray that that time actually made us stronger collectively.
That's right.
I would love to think and feel that there's a reason for that, and it was to elevate our consciousness and for us to become more aware of, things that aren't serving us anymore, and how we can flip the script, adjust the tune, change the paradigm.
Flip the tortilla.
Yeah. Tortillas.
For real. And just to honor each person's sovereignty. There was a lot of collective decisions that were made where somebody didn't give consent. And that's where I have a challenge with that. It's not for somebody's personal decision, pro-vax, anti-vax, whatever. Like, that doesn't matter. Are you telling me that I don't actually have ownership and sovereignty over my body? That's between me and God, the creator, source, however that wants to be framed, this life force that animates this body, and the 40 trillion bacteria cells and colonies, all of these cells and organisms that come together. I think I'm just one thing. I'm an amalgamation of so many different life forms that are coming together, and I get to drive this consciousness. So thank you, brother, for sharing that perspective and actually diving in to just how off that truth we can actually be at times. And these God bumps are just flowing right now. And bro, I mean, just tap us in a little bit to what it was like to go and compete in Olympic Games that don't have people. Looking around, highest stage,
Yeah.
To compete on.
Yeah, I think even during the opening ceremonies, they had like cardboard cutouts in the audience in the stand. If I remember correctly, it could be a little too far fetched with that one, but it was just like, dude, you walk into a stadium and like we're all like, it looks so silly looking back at it. Like we're like, oh, like filming it with our phones, and like because they do put on a show in the stadium, like we all like line up together and there's like fireworks and everything. There's no audience, like there's no one there, and we're all wearing the masks, and like it's super super hot in general, and so yeah, I mean it just felt really awkward, like the entire experience. Like nobody socialized with each other because everybody was just like too worried about testing positive, and there wasn't even any activities like in Paris. We can talk about too. There was so much stuff to do, and I was like a kid in a candy store, and I was like, I'm gonna go do this.
In Paris was 2024?
Yeah. And you could leave the village, go out into the city, go explore Paris. In Tokyo, you couldn't do that. You had to sign agreements that you weren't gonna leave the Olympic Village unless it was time for you to leave the country. You were being tracked on the phone if you were breaking the rules, they'd kick you out. Like, it was crazy, man. My coach and some people that were staying in like hotels, they would be delivered food, like in like saran wrap, like via it was just this whole. It was crazy.
So when somebody said, "Hey, are you excited about going to compete in the Olympic Games in Tokyo?"
I was like, yeah, because it's my like dream. It's been a lifelong mission. That was the extent of it. However, like the experience just got really rained on.
How did you do in those Olympic Games?
So I did my first routine, which at the time we had 2 routines in the qualifying round. And I did it okay. I was so nervous. I was like shaking while I was bouncing up there. And then I go up and do my second routine. I start off really good, and when I get to the 6th skill, I go off to the side and go through the springs.
Oof.
Yeah. So my video on YouTube of me falling through the springs has more views than the Olympic highlight reel of men's trampoline.
That's hilarious.
It's like 4
man.
million views.
No way.
Yeah.
You're a millionaire.
Thank you.
How's it feel?
I knew I'd get here.
Okay, definitely gotta watch this. Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so that was devastating. I was just distraught. Like, got off. I was like crying. Like, why? Because I've been more consistent. Like, I haven't fallen really at any competition. Like, I just hit my routine and bam, like that's all she wrote.
Right.
But just the pressure was just incredible. Like, I mean, something I still work on, you know, just dealing with the internal pressure and like, even like day to day, like just fine tuning like some things and just focus on breathing and being grounded and not being taken away by some kind of negative circumstance. You know, I think that's just part of the work. Become a lifelong student.
1000%.
Yeah.
There is no stress in presence. Stress is literally me telling myself a story about some potential future negative scenario coming in, and I'm embodying it now.
Yeah.
That's anxiety. That's stress, right? Which is ultimately fear. What am I actually afraid of? I can't be afraid when I'm actually here. And I'll bet you experience that in the moment. Once you break through and you start actually doing your routine, this thing's turned off. You're fully engaged, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% present with the activity. That's why flow state is the ultimate way of living. And paradoxically, time flies infinitely fast and is non-existent because it's operating as a pure soul state. At least that's my experience, man. When I'm snowboarding, I'm going 45 miles an hour down the mountain. Like, you think I'm sitting over here thinking of, oh, I wonder what the tea kettle's boiling at today. No, I am hyper present on where my edges are, what terrain is coming up.
Yeah.
Like hyper presence, that's the game of life. Hyper presence. How can I be here more?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do think it's so important. It's just so easy because like we have phones, right? Anything you could possibly worry about, you can check on your phone. Money is on your phone. Friends are on your phone. You know, it's like we gotta find a way to balance that. Like, yeah, it's a beautiful piece of technology. Like, however, it's not the end all. Like, you know, like our friend Jason was saying the other day, like just being present with your kid and just like listening to it like purr and like just feeling the fur. Like, you're not gonna, that's something that's like, it's gonna just sink into you, you know? You're not gonna like be on your deathbed and you'll be like, man, my Instagram was dope.
I mean, maybe it depends on the deathbed is.
I don't know. Like, if I'm in the hospital and I'm like looking back at my life, like I'm gonna be thinking about all the like people that were close to me, all the beautiful moments. Yeah, not what was happening through a phone screen.
You know, you're hitting on a really important thread here, and this is why I personally have a philosophy to die before I die, so I actually live. This is why I love jumping out of an airplane, climbing to 14,000 feet in Peru, like climbing mountains, jumping off of, like even jumping on the trampoline the other day in your center was just incredible. To be jumping up, for me, I probably got to like 12 feet or something, maybe like
You got it pretty high.
Really?
Yeah, dude. It was impressive.
Okay.
You had some good control.
And that's that feeling of aliveness. That's what it is. Find whatever it is that causes you to feel alive. The more that you can focus on that, I'm not even going to say you, that's a projection. the more that I've focused on what I feel alive doing and being. For example, right now, I'm not thinking in my physical mind, I'm operating in flow and deep connection with you, sharing this epic story of the journey of your life and the totality of our beingness in this moment.
Yeah, man.
Ja, wait. So, all right. So, anyways, back to the Olympic Games, bro. What was 2024 Paris like for you? Was it hard to get in? Did you make it easily?
Again, like, all glory be to God. All glory be to the Creator. You know, I feel like it was just a true trial and testament of faith. 2023 was when we began the qualification process, and in 2023 I had a very serious breakup in a relationship, not only with a partner but also with myself. Because it was a time where I was like, I had to look in the mirror and be like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? Are you happy with what you're doing? And majority of those answers were no. And I didn't know who I was. And so I had to really sit with a lot of things that I had, swept under the rug for so long. I had to really go deep and, like we talked about, almost die. I've had moments where I felt like, we had spoken about our own emotional trials and buckets of tears, crying, and I've cried so much during that year, and I thought, like, I just wasn't conscious enough to realize how much I wasn't feeling, and what was, like, buried underneath the mask. And so, yeah, I did a lot of soul searching between 2023 and into the Olympic year, which, some might say, boy, you better just like compartmentalize and, focus on the task at hand. But for me, it was like I had to, like, tear myself apart, like dive into my soul. I just somehow innately knew that that's what I had to do to get to Paris. And so it didn't start off good. The first Olympic trial, I didn't do great. I was either second or third after the rankings. Then we had the momentum started to pick back up when I was, like, really just honing in and working on a lot of these parts of myself. And I had qualified the USA spot, so now the USA has a spot. Because remember, we talked about in Tokyo, it was a personal spot. Like, I didn't even have an alternate because it was a named spot. So I qualified the USA spot in our last World Cup in Germany, and that's when I got, like, a really big confidence boost because I was competing a difficult routine. I placed top 8 in the competition. And so then I go after that and do a second Olympic trial, and I my first, so in the new rules, you have 2 attempts in the qualifying round. So you can mess up on one routine, but if you do good on a second routine or vice versa, that can put you into the next round. So it pushed for more difficulty. It pushed for harder routines, obviously more difficulty. And so my second Olympic trial, I go up and do the routine, fall off the trampoline,
No.
hit my head,
No.
got up, and I'm like, I mean, I was pretty dizzy. I was like, I didn't see stars. I mean, I don't remember seeing stars, but I was like, well,
Concussion for sure.
gotta go do another routine. Get up there, do my second routine. I was like, wow, that was okay. That's not bad. Look at the scores. Scores weren't great, and I was like, okay, we're confused here, but it is what it is. Still, after that competition, I'm 3rd in the rankings. So I'm not even Olympic alternate. So you have the Olympian, number 1, Olympic alternate, number 2. So we have one more competition left. And I was like, really just testing my level of trust with the Creator, God. I was looking at the start list because they released a start list for the competition. It said I was the last person to go in the last group. I'm like, are you serious? Like,
You got to close it out.
like, really? Like, that's how we're gonna do this? I was laughing when I saw this. I was like, all right.
Actually seems like a great place to be.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just like, again, I was like, it was like a test. Like, the universe was like, so what's it gonna be? You know, like, and so I show up to the competition, and it's just drama from the beginning. You know, we have these long lines in training, so they're putting together like all the kids, we'll call them kids because they're younger at like level athletes in the sport, but they're not competing in the Olympic trials. Like, it's the national championships, but it's also the Olympic trials, but they're putting all of us together. So you're waiting like 30, 40 minutes for a turn.
Wow.
And so people are like frustrated, like, because the training is all messed up, and we're all like, and so people start like cutting, like, just like the people who are like, you know, competing in the trials, like, because like we want to get more turns, like, you know, we get like, you know, so and so is here to compete at nationals, but it's like, this is like determining like my future.
Right.
So there's like drama going on there. And it's just a super stressful environment. And I'm, you know, trying to keep my head above water. And so it's a day of competition. And the night before, I don't know how much I slept. Maybe 3 hours. I'm like tossing and turning, like cold sweats, like wake up like soaked.
Just anxiousness?
Yeah, just insane. And go to training. Training's not great. It's like awesome. But this is that like, we'll call it like alchemy, where you're like trying to be as present as possible and not let these circumstances affect you.
For sure.
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to lunch, and then I'm gonna go take a nap, because I have time. I have like 3-4 hours before I have to like be up and like get moving. Can't sleep, no nap. So I'm like, all right, let's get ready and go. I go to my parents' room, and all I remember is just like bawling, crying. And my mom like was like, are you okay? You okay? And I'm like, yeah. But like I knew at this point, because I've done all this like work, emotional work, that like I knew I had to like release. Like I had to release it in order, you know, for me to feel better. She's like, are you sure this is okay? Like maybe you should stop. And I'm like, no, like I need to like go through this full cathartic process and release. And I I don't know, my hips just got tight talking about this. Maybe there's some still like emotion left in that whole situation.
Yeah.
But I've also been sitting. Anyways, so back to the story. So I do the walk with my parents to the arena, and I'm like so out of it. I'm like so tired and just like so drained. I was like, maybe I should get a coffee. And I was like, no. I'm not going to touch that because the adrenaline is going to kick in. And it's way more potent drug than a little espresso. I can tell you that. So get there for warm up, and warm up's not going great either. So I'm just like, we're trusting. That's what we're doing. We're trusting the process. Get out on the competition floor, and probably that warm-up turn wasn't great either. So again, I don't even.
How'd you make it to the Olympics?
Yeah, I don't know, bro. Like, and so finally, I'm just like surrendering. I'm like, something I was working on with a sports psych coach, who I cherish dearly. Her name is Dr. Jessica Garza. She worked a lot with me last year in helping me release a lot of somatic psychological issues.
For sure.
And one thing she told me to try was just to smile, like, while I jump. Yeah.
Yeah, she's genius.
Like, just have a good time.
Style.
And I'm like, that's crazy, because like this is such a serious sport, so like focused, so locked in. Like you have to be like, in my Russian culture too, it's like you got to be cold and, you know, really like just emotionless basically. It's like, well, maybe if I was in Russia and Belarus, but I'm not. So I gave it a whirl. And I remember during my first routine, I just had this big old grin on my face. It's just like, yeah, let's do it. So I do my first routine. Get off, I was like, wow, this is a pretty good routine. Get off the trampoline. I'm now second. I'm the alternate.
All from smiling.
All from smiling. However, I do have a crack at another routine.
Yeah.
My coach looks at me, he's like, we gotta do another routine. And so at this moment, it was like, am I going to the Olympics or not? And I go into the corral and put on some music, and I'm just like, yeah, we're doing another routine. Like, that's all that was going through my head, nothing else. Get up there, do another routine, put a little more oomph to it, a little more sharpness. Get off the trampoline and like, okay, like, he's like, yeah, that was better. I'm like, yeah, it felt better. And so we go check the app. It's called ScoreSync. And it's like crashing because so many people are on it. Like, it's like the buffer rate is just like not happening. We're all like twiddling our thumbs, you know, like, and it wasn't until the coach of my synchro partner came up to us and said, you got it.
Good thing you smiled.
Yeah. And so I immediately just like dropped down on my knees and just like, I mean, there's a picture of me and I'm just like, thank you. And then I just started bawling, crying, and tears flowing and hugging everybody. My dad comes in from the corral and we're just like, yeah, the rules aren't a thing anymore. We're like hugging it out. And yeah. And I mean, like I said, it was just God's timing, like testament of trust. Because again, I was behind, you know, like part of me was like, had doubts that I could even get there again, even on the team, you know, like I wasn't even on the team at one point. And yeah. Then we go to Paris, like a month later. Yeah, it was a month later. And it was a whole different experience. From Tokyo. Like I said, they did a phenomenal job hosting it. The opening ceremonies was what changed the whole, because I got there and we had a training camp and it was kind of like I was just tired. I was over it. We had a long year, a year and a half of go, stress. And the first night I get there, in the village, we arrive, and the whole cardboard bed story is real. Like, the bed's frames are made of cardboard. And we have these little, like, recycled futons that are in 3 pieces, and that's what you sleep on. Yeah. So, like...
Okay.
I mean, if this was, like kind of like a little bit like the couch cushion. It was like a couch cushion. It was recycled futon, but you can customize it so you can change the firmness, which didn't make a difference. And that was our bed.
Okay.
We had swimmers in the Olympic Village who said no. We trained too much and we had too many competitions, so they stayed in a hotel across the street in a nice, comfy bed. One of my roommates, Frederick Richards, he was the men's gymnastics representative. He Amazoned a mattress to the Olympic Village before he got there. So he had a twin-size mattress on top of this bed. But the point of what I'm getting at here was I got there the first night, get in late, we do the whole check-in, get all the gear, all the apparel, like do this whole process, takes like 4 or 5 hours, and then finally we get to the village, which is off-site from where we get all the gear. And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, we have training the next morning at like 8. Right, to be up at like 8. And so get in there and I can't fall asleep. I wake up my roommate, and I'm like stupid. He's like, don't worry, bro. Like, USA Gymnastics is gonna get us mattress toppers. I'm like, okay, can't wait. Next day we go to training and our bus breaks. The bus doesn't arrive for training, so we have to get into a taxi provided by Olympic Village. On the way back from training, our bus breaks down. We are stuck in the bus for an hour and a half because they were special buses. They literally like put tape on them. We had special routes to go from the Olympic Village to the training center to the competition hall, etc.
Why is this? Is it still
just
the
security?
Just okay.
Like they even in Paris, and I guess this happens at other Olympic Games too. On the highways, they build special lanes for just the traffic flow of. I mean, you have 10,000 Olympians.
Wow.
In a span of a month and a half. So.
And then all the people that are coming in to participate in the experiences.
Right. But the city can't just shut down.
Right.
You can't just be like, okay, everybody, you're on paid vacation, like, so they have to create logistics for, the moving parts to move as they do. And, our bus breaks down and we have the opening ceremonies that night and I'm just like, I'm over the whole, I'm like so like frustrated and tired that I'm like, oh, I just want to go home. I'm just being like a bad egg. But again, I mean, this is what happens when we get tired, you get exhausted, you're not you. So then we go to the opening ceremonies and that was like where it just flipped. Like it was poetic. We rode down the Seine River on a boat and it was all the USA delegation. LeBron James was the flag holder, along with a girl named Coco Gauff. I think she's a tennis player. Anyways, so the men's basketball team's there. Everybody's like geeking out, like, oh, can we get pictures? Can we get pictures? And I have a picture with LeBron James and a picture frame on a coffee table at my house. And so we ride down the river and it just starts raining. And we're all wearing like ponchos and we're all getting soaked and like, it was just dramatic, like poetic. We like cruise past the Eiffel Tower. They have Olympic rings stamped on it, like that they added for the games. There's a whole fireworks display. They have a whole opening ceremonies like show afterwards. Like there's a guy that's like looks like this Assassin's Creed character, and he's like running around with the Olympic torch.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember Celine Dion's literally singing on the Eiffel Tower.
Wow.
And I'm just like in awe. Again, I'm just like crying, like it's so beautiful. Like,
so just for perspective here, your first Olympic Games were in Japan with not a single person outside the competitors and the coaches in darkness wearing masks. Your second one, Celine Dion is singing to you in the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, the first one we're like in quarantine camp with plexiglass dividers that like, it looked like the like little dividers you had in school to not cheat on tests, except for they were plastic. It was yeah, or like the two-way like phone call thing, like like prison, where you're like
Telephone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was the safety precaution. Anyways, yeah, so complete 180, and so it was a real Olympic Games experience. And I was just after that moment, I did not have a bad day.
Like ever again in life?
No, at the Olympic Games. But I mean, what is a bad day, you know?
Bad day is perspective.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Cool, man. Well, I mean, that's a really fascinating experience to be a part of. What did it feel like for you, you know, to be in that kind of energy with all that attention and that focus, especially just like pouring into the contrast of going in Tokyo and it just being this sterile environment where everyone's on eggshells, doesn't know if they're even going to be able to express their gifts that they've been focused on their whole life, to now you're actually at the thing where we've kind of come through the dip, through the darkness. Now you're at the Paris Olympics 2024, competing on the highest stage. Everything's lit and alive. You know, what did it feel like at that point?
It was beautiful. It was incredible. I mean, I got to live out my dream again. And I was the first male trampolinist in the history of the United States to compete at 2 Olympic Games.
No way.
Yeah. So, yeah. It was an honor, you know, like it was so surreal that like I got to live out my family's legacy. My dad went to 2 Olympic Games. I went to 2 Olympic Games. My coach went to 2 Olympic Games.
Wow.
My godfather went to 2 Olympic Games, and it was just like you had to add on. And I feel like that's really what I was doing it for, you know. I do think there's a healthy egoic expression of legacy and creating something that's deep and, you know, maybe it won't be echoed as loudly through time, you know, as some people would like, but it's like what it means to you, you know, like what are people are gonna like, how is your family gonna view you when you leave this life, or like how are people gonna view you? And it's like those are the things that's like that inner fire, you know, that like pushes you and drives you. And yeah, I do think a lot of the traditional values are still very important. You know, the world is moving fast, and a lot of paradigms are being uprooted, and a lot of systems are, you know, being proven to us that they don't work. However, you know, I think family and love are so important still.
Breaking news.
Still. After a millennia or two.
Yeah, bro. I'm curious how things have shifted from your perspective of nuclear family to all of us as one global family.
Yeah. I really do think that just goes back to the conversation of presence. You know? Because even with my immediate family, sometimes we have a hard time connecting, like being present with each other. And that's okay. However, you know, when people see you and resonate with you, and you can express yourself authentically without being judged, and you can let them do the same, you know, that's all part of love. And you don't have to be able to get there with everyone. Ideally, that's the goal. However, you know, you pick your battles, you accept what's meant for you, and kind of let the rest float down the river.
Let it flow.
Let it flow.
Let it flow. Amazing, bro. Well, where is it that people can get in touch with you?
On my Instagram, it's Alexi _Shostak. I also go by Alexi, Alexi. But, I mean, we can link it, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so we don't need to get into the phonetics and the spelling and all that.
Link is going to be down in the description.
Yeah.
Bro, you're such an epic human. It's been such an honor to get to know you. You're such a deep soul, very present. And man, it's just been a blast to actually get to experience your journey and, you know, kind of get to trade shoes, like feel like I'm actually there in Paris and I'm there in Tokyo, like what's going on, and, you know, pour in that effort and energy and that focus. So, you know, thank you for really just widening the scope of what it is that I can see that's available for myself to be able to explore and grow in, and planting the seeds of possibility. And thank you for also having the courage at 15, 16 years old, you know, to actually choose this as your destiny and not be trapped in somebody else's box. And, you know, last thing I'll say is what are your thoughts around the next Olympics?
We're going to LA, baby.
Let's grow, bro. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You can check out in the show notes itself a little bit more about Alexi, where to find him, his personal website, his Instagram, all that. Man, thank you so much for being who you are, and look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening and taking the time.
And may the source be with you. Peace and love, y'all.